Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Meaty's Mailbox. This is probably going to be an ever-evolving series where you guys email me topics that you would like me to talk about, discuss, and we can, see where it goes from there. So, not sure exactly, starting from now to where it's going to end up being. Like I said, the show will probably evolve. Right now, it's just me in front of the camera with some topics that you guys sent in. And we're going to talk about them. I'm going to share my experiences with you, some of my own things that I've done and my opinions, and see if you guys actually enjoy it. And hopefully we get some, like I said before, we get some entertainment and some knowledge out of it. So without further ado, you guys, we're going to get started here. And I ask you guys to bear with me again because this is new for me. I'm going to try not to kind of maybe go off on a tangent or something, like really focus in too much on one thing and we start driving away from the topic at hand. I'm going to try. There's no guarantees here. So just to start off, I think it's important that we talk about some of the things that I do that maybe you guys can relate to. First thing off on this show, I'm not going to go into deep thought beforehand, right? I'm gonna read the topics. All I did was I jotted them down on a piece of paper, even though you've got all this technology around and all this email and all these screens. I'm just gonna jot down the basics of the topic. And then I'm going to talk to you freely. I think it's more important for me to free talk, like freely just what's kind of coming off the top of my head, because that's about as honest as I can get, right? If I pre-plan what I'm going to say, that's not something I ever wanted to hear. Like if you were right here with me right now and we were talking and you asked me a question, would I say, hold that thought, I'll be back, I'm going to go do a couple hours worth of research, then I'm going to get back to you? No, you're going to say, hey Meaty, what do you think about this? And I'm going to respond and reply what comes off the top of my mind. So with that being said, and kind of keep that in the back of your guys' mind, that's how we're doing this. I think it's more, like I said, it's more of an honest, right from the heart type of reaction. And it may not be the smoothest. You guys know how I am. I jump back and forth on topics a lot. I talk with my hands. So let's get to this thing. Oh, one other thing. There, see, I'm already starting it. One other thing. I was saying I wanted to share some of the things that I do. If you're watching a movie, if you're watching a YouTube video, if you're reading a book or reading a newspaper, magazine or something, is there ever times that you guys read a passage and you're like, wow, that's exactly the way I feel. I've just never been able to put it into words like that, but that is exactly my philosophy. That's exactly my feelings. Like you can really relate to something that was said. I tend to grab onto things like that. I grab onto quotes in movies. I grab onto quotes from famous philosophers or instructors or things like that. So what I may do along the way is grab some of these quotes or topics and read them if they relate to the topic at hand that you guys are writing in, because I really look at those things, right? I look at that and I think about it, and it's like a thought process going on in your head. It's a self-evaluation. It's a way to kind of talk or walk yourself through whatever's going on at that moment, why you related to that particular passage. And you'll see what I mean. Because we're going to start off with one right off the bat. So let's get into this. All right, so I grabbed a couple to start for this first episode, because again, I don't know how long I'm going to be able to edit myself down on time, because we could talk for hours. And I'm going to try and just read like the first name or something, just in case someone really doesn't want to be identified too much or whatever. But that way you can at least know this is your question. So Ariel wrote in, his topic was how to follow through with things, basically. That's what I got from this. What he talked about, the topic he wanted me to discuss was, he's like, for example, if he has something that he wants to do And then he gets the opportunity to do it. He says it's not sure if it's laziness or if it's lack of focus, but he seems to jump to another thing and start to focus on that and then miss the opportunity. You see what I mean? Even in the way that he wrote it, he was doing the same thing that he was talking about, right? Talking about the opportunity to do something that you apparently want to do, but you don't follow through with it and you lose focus and you move on to the next thing. And he lost focus in trying to write what he was trying to say. And he said it wasn't sure if it was laziness on his part, mental laziness or physical laziness, or what it was. And if I could speak on that topic. And again, in a nutshell, it's like, how do you follow through with something? That's kind of what I got from this. And I want to start with a quote right off the bat. And I'll tell you who wrote it afterward. And if you're not used to hearing like philosophy, you have to hear it, read it, think about it, right? Think about how it relates to you. Do you understand what is being said? Because there's a lot of philosophy out there that is very hard to understand. It's very hard to relate to. But then when you hit that one thing that really does relate, it's incredible, actually really incredible. And as we go along in this series and I talk about things, you're going to see that it has a big effect on my life and how I deal with things, how I enlighten myself with the passages of philosophers. And I know it sounds weird. But philosophy is pretty incredible. Even if you don't have to agree with it, and that may be where it came about, where I talk about your opinion, my opinion, I respect opinions, is because I read these passages, I don't necessarily agree with them, but there's a thought to them that it makes me think, and I think makes me grow either mentally or not physically, but mentally, adding to your knowledge database. You don't have to agree with it, but it's very important to understand other people's points of view. So the quote is, "I have been impressed with the urgency of doing. Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Being willing is not enough, we must do." That's by Leonardo da Vinci. You understand what he's saying there? The urgency of doing, right? Knowing something isn't enough. You must apply it, right? So if you know math, but you don't apply it in your daily life. I was never big on math in school. Now, in my regular job, the math equations and the chemistry and everything, I'm like, oh my gosh, I should have paid more attention in school. But it's funny, I'm actually applying the knowledge in my real life. But when you're in school, it's almost like you don't see the connection. And the other part of it was, being willing is not enough, we must do, okay? So, in a nutshell, what can you take from a passage like that? Knowing is not enough, you got to apply your knowledge. Being willing to do something is not enough, you have to do it, right? And this goes right to the topic at hand. If you want to do something, you have the opportunity, but you don't do it. It's like, okay, you have the willingness to do it, but you don't follow through. To me, it's as simple as that. If you want to do something, and you want to focus on it, you got to do it. Or push it aside and move on and don't dwell on it, right? I think it's important. My advice to this would be to start small, right? You start small with something. If it's something that you want to do, and see, we're being real broad with the topic. Who knows what it is? It may be that you want to go walk your dog. And you have the opportunity to do it because you're not doing anything currently and the dog's right there in the backyard, but you don't go do it. Something as simple as that to something big, Maybe you have the opportunity to go interview for a new job. And the appointment is set up, so you have the thing and you have the opportunity, but do you actually go and do it? Okay? So what I would say is start small. Start small. Make small successes with the things that you do. Okay? Find success with smaller things. Don't try and attack the big things right away, because what you're going to find is the bigger the thing that you want to do, the possibility of the bigger the failure. And a big failure up front, if you're not used to dealing with failures and successes, the big, huge failure right up front might just crush you down and put you in this funk, right? To where you're like, you don't want to do anything because that's what happens. So you start small, you get small successes, and you also get smaller failures, easier to come back from. And then you build up that mental tenacity that you have, right? You build up your mental strength to deal with things like this, and you just work your way up. So that was a question from Ariel, and again, I could take off forever on these things, but I want to get to some more here. So these next ones, I think I can kind of combine. No, two of them. So Trev out there, and Retta, both you guys real active on Twitter. I know who you guys are. Remember, I said I know the names. So Trev and Retta kind of are asking, are talking about the same topic. And Trev basically, the topic was, how does someone get through maybe rough times, right? How do you get through challenges? Little challenges, big challenges. He kind of had prefaced the question by saying that he knows that I have 3 jobs, basically. I have a day job that takes up my whole day, and I run 2 YouTube channels. So that is 3 jobs. He wants to know, like, how do you do it? How are you able to, do all that and, do the other things in life that are important? And then also Retta, who had asked, or the topic he was saying, hey, I'm in college, obviously college and life, and there's a lot of pressures that go along with the scholastic part of college as well as the fun part of college. And he was asking the same things. How would one get through the topic of how would one get through hard times? How can you find to stay happy and confident and find mental success as well as physical success? Okay, so those 2 things there, it could be a really long topic. Okay, that's something that it's like, where do you start with that? Where do you start? I think that one of the most important things in all of the topics that are probably going to be coming in, if they're kind of a topic that will address a situation that person is in, and probably address a situation that a lot of people are in, some of the things that I would like to talk about is maybe the basics. All right. 2 things come to mind. 2 things come to mind right now. Number 1, balance. I think that balance is probably the most important word that can apply to numerous amounts of topics and questions, right? Like these. Hard times. How do you do it all? Balance, right? And how far out can you take that word? What is balance? What is balance? Well, balance can be a number of different things as it relates to the situation. Let's take college, for instance. So you have college. You have so many units, so many credits that you're taking, which takes up X amount of time per day. Plus you have the environment of college. It could be one big party with schoolwork, right? Maybe you're involved with sports like I was, which took up a huge chunk of the day. Then you, depending on your upbringing or your family or lack thereof, you may have to work as well to be able to, have money to do things. All that together can be overwhelming. It can feel overwhelming. So I say what you have to do, and what you have to do for yourself is find the balance, right? Find the balance. When I went to college, I had to carry 16 units because of sports, right? So, and football was from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. daily. So I'm not going to do any classes after 6. So everything had to be done well before 1 o'clock. And it's not 16 units because you get some of those units you actually get applied from the sports. So let's just say I had, however many classes. So basically my day started at probably 6, maybe 7 o'clock in the morning. And I went straight through. Then I went right out to practice and did that. And I had to get my schoolwork done. I had to, which it's important to have the interaction, the social interaction with everybody that was there. I mean, heck, there was a lot of girls there, right? You wanted to talk and have fun and enjoy yourself. Otherwise, why are we doing this? You can find balance. If you can find balance, it's important that you do in everything that you do. If you can find it there and do well in school as well as do well for your mental aspect of the social scene, that's the balance that I'm talking about. Can I speak on specifics? I could, yeah, I could, but I think it's, why focus on 100 different things when you can focus on one thing? Saying, find your balance. Find your balance in the time that you invest into each one of these things. Sacrifice is important that comes under the balance. To have this balance, you're going to have to sacrifice little things. And I've talked about sacrifice before. I think for me, I sacrificed a lot. Looking back, I sacrificed a lot of things. Sleep. Sometimes I sacrificed a lot of the social scene when it came to work, to drive through work, to work that overtime, to work those weekends, to just basically not really have a social life at all for a few years. But once I came back and got to that point, and then you kind of open the box again, and now you reevaluate your balance. My balance was work. I'm committed to doing this, and therefore I'm gonna do it. It's like we talked about the Da Vinci quote, applying it. Don't just think about it, do it. Commit to your task at hand and be happy with it. You're going to find successes and failures all the way through it. But at the end of it, like I committed, I'm going to say 3 years, I'm going to dedicate myself to this. And at the end of that, I'm going to reevaluate and see where my cards lie. And it worked out. And then you can reevaluate again. Do you need to commit somewhere else for a certain period of time? All these little things all goes back into the whole balance thing. I'm not saying balance that you have to have 50% of school and 50% of social. I'm saying find a balance in your own head that says, all right, you know what? I'm doing pretty good in school, so I don't think I need to dedicate a lot more time to that, but I want to find some more happiness in what I'm doing right now, so I'm going to dedicate a little bit more time here, right? That may be your balancing scales. Or I'm doing bad in school. I need to cut out the partying 5 days a week. Maybe I cut it back to 2 days a week of partying, and I'm going to refocus on school. And you commit to that for a semester. You commit to that for a year. And what you'll find is you're getting control of yourself, right? I'm not a psychology. I'm talking about, these are things that I did. And these are the results that I got. I felt that I got control of myself. I got control of my situations and the things that were going on, which made it a lot easier to deal with rough times, hard times, because I was focused and committed to certain things. I was always thinking, don't allow yourself to go day after day mindlessly not evaluating and thinking about things. It's not that you're being overly serious. I think you're just being mentally strong, right? Mentally strong all the time, because you can find ultimate happiness, ultimate success. You can find all these great things with this mental strength that you're building, and that's one thing that you need to build as through your whole life, throughout your whole life. I talked about it, challenging yourself. You challenge yourself, continue to challenge yourself to get mentally stronger every day, because then no matter what situation comes up, you're going to be able to evaluate it, tackle it, and move on, right? So that's kind of where I stand on that, without getting too detailed into it. Find a balance, evaluate, work on your mental strength. See, I'm 6'3", 240 pounds, so I'm physically strong. What does that mean? Well, it means a little bit, but there could be someone, let's say, that's 5'2". Who cares how tall they are? Who cares how much they weigh? Who cares how much they can bench press, right? That person could be mentally stronger than I am. And that's an admirable trait, right? That is a trait that they may be able to to take on situations that I can't because of their mental toughness, not their physical toughness. That's why no matter who you are, young, old, male, female, big, small, doesn't matter. We're always mental toughness, right? Work on your mental toughness. It'll make every situation that comes your way a lot easier to deal with. Not that it's easier just because it's not a big deal, easier because you have such a focus. You have this built up knowledge base of how to react, how to apply, how to refocus, how to do all these buzzwords that are going to make things seem that it's just, oh, that was easy to deal with. This situation came in here, I was able just to deal with it and move on. Why? Did I not take it as serious? No. Did I take it too serious? No. You have been working on your mental toughness all this time, and now you're just dealing with stuff, right? You're just dealing with it. So daily, challenge yourself and work on your mental toughness. I think those are really important points. One quick one here. I wanted to try and get all these in. I know we're probably kind of going a little bit long, but Trent asked for a topic. He referred to Dracula in Castlevania, saying, "What is man?" Right? What makes you you? How do you define man? And this, I think this kind of relates to what I was just talking about. So that was from Trent. The topic, what is man? I like that one. What makes you you? How do you define man? Is it personality? Is it life experience? Is it genetics? It's all of that stuff, right? It's a little bit of all of that stuff, I think. What makes people who they are, in Meatius's opinion? Well, I think it's character. I think it's mental toughness. I think it's your resolve. I think it's your balance that you may have. Look at someone maybe that you look up to in life. Maybe it's your best friend. Maybe it's an instructor, a teacher. Maybe it's your parents. Maybe it's someone on YouTube. You know, really, I'm not saying just because they're popular and they're goofy. I'm saying maybe there's someone like that. Maybe it's someone on TV, knowing that a lot of the stuff they do is made up, but maybe you know a little bit about their real life and you look up to them. Maybe it's their character. What are the traits? What are the aspects of these people that you look up to or that you may aspire to be like? And then you can answer your own question, right? So there's times when you have a question in your head. It's like, what makes someone great? What makes someone admirable? What makes someone all of these things? Well, you have the answers because there's someone in your life or out there that you look up to. And all you have to do is ask yourself, why do I look up to that person? Some of those traits, some of those aspects is what makes us who we are. I think it's a number of things. I think it's a number of things that what makes us who we are. Character's important because character is something that's who you are all the time, right? You're not one way outside, a different way behind closed doors. You treat people the same, how you treat people. It goes to your character. There's a lot of things you talk about, like TV shows like Undercover Boss is pretty funny. I've never really seen it, but I know the premise behind it. It's like, well, if you're working and it's your coworker, how do you work? How do you do your job? And then come to find out that coworker is actually the boss in charge. And they're able to see, if you knew it was the boss, do you act the same way? Are you working the same way? Or would you do it differently? And they find people who work and act the same way after they find out that it was the boss. And they're like, what the character these people have. It doesn't matter that it's just a coworker or the boss. They didn't know it was the boss. So it's how they do things all the time, no matter what. And it shows, wow, it showed the boss people like, what a great employee this person is. What great character they have. And then there's the other people that they're doing, they're taking shortcuts and maybe talking bad about the company. whatever it may be, and then they come to find out it's the boss, and like, uh-oh, you know, it's too late now. You can't change who you are. You've defined who you are. You've shown everyone. You've shown the boss what your character is. And that's what, when I say what defines someone is their character, it's like that's who they are, you know. That's who they are all the time, not just on camera or off camera. There's a lot of things I think that goes into defining who you are. You know, what defines what I am? I don't know. My successes, yes. My failures, definitely. My character, my knowledge, my friends, right? My friends define who I am. Who you associate with defines who you are. I think that that's an important thing to remember. Let's say that you have there's a criminal. He robs old ladies, or he takes people's newspapers, or he steals milk from the store, whatever it may be. Let's just say he does things, or they do things like that. And you associate with that person, right? So what does that say about your character? Well, he's my friend, you know, he's my best friend. Okay, that's okay. I'm not saying it's good, right or wrong. I'm saying you associate with them. That partially defines who you are, right? It partially defines. So your friends, or your associates, your people that you associate with, will partially define who you are. There's a lot of things that go into that. So I think that's pretty cool. All right. So in closing on this, I like to just close out with a couple more quotes, and I think it's important, just in case I get like real focused on a topic and I start maybe. I don't want to sound like I'm preaching, right? Because that's not at all my intentions here. My intentions are just open discussion. So I wanted to tell you guys a quote from Bruce Lee, right? Bruce Lee, martial artists, right? And it goes like this. A teacher is never a giver of truth, okay? He is a guide, a pointer to the truth that each student must find for themselves. Okay? I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm just here to help you explore yourself. And that's a quote from Bruce Lee. Again, think about those words for yourself. One last thing. There's someone who I watch on YouTube and follow. He's an ex-military special forces Marine Force recon guy. He's done a lot of private stuff. He's a tactical instructor in firearms and things like that. But I find these people have a real solid mental, physical, strength in them. And there's something. I was watching a video not too long ago, and I'm listening, and it was like I said. He said some words, and I'm like, wow, that is exactly like. I immediately said that's how I feel, but I never really thought of putting it into words. But it goes to this particular show, Meaty's Mailbox. Just in case I get off on a tangent, or I sound preachy, or I sound like I'm trying to give you the absolute answers, which I'm not. He calls what he does, right? He's a firearms instructor. And what he doesn't call himself a teacher. He's not teaching you anything. He calls it knowledge transfer. What a great term, knowledge transfer, right? I'm not telling you what to do in college. I'm not telling you what to do with your best friend. I'm not telling you how to solve your problems. And it goes on. This is what he says. These are his words. I'm quoting Travis Haley. I'm not here to teach you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I will show you a pathway into your own lives to excel yourselves based on my experiences, my stories, my failures, my successes, my research. And with all this, you can take it to whatever level you're going to take it. That's what he says. I'm here as a knowledge transfer. Now, of course, it's a play on words, but I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm definitely not here to tell you what to do. I'm here as a knowledge transfer. I thought it was so awesome. I may quote this video, knowledge transfer. I don't know. That sounds a little arrogant though to title a video that way, but I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. It really hit home with me on the premise that I wanted to do this show on, was to talk about things, to share my experiences, successes, failures, all this stuff with you guys. Maybe you'll find something in what I'm saying that could help you, but you have to find that for yourself, right? It's very important. So, again, this may be an ever-adapting show, but I think I would like to end on a couple of things. Let's end on balance, right? Let's find some balance in everything that we do. You could be the happiest person in the world. You can still find balance, right? You could be unhappy. Find some balance. Challenge yourself every day to do, not to think about, not to know not to have knowledge but not apply it, right? Having knowledge is nothing without applying that knowledge to something, right? Having the willingness to do without doing is nothing. So if you have the willingness, go and do it. Find your balance, and let's all of us challenge ourselves to work on our mental strength every day, because that's what I do. And I find like such a good feeling, like when you know that you've grown your knowledge base. Maybe you learned how to take something apart and put it back together. Maybe you learned how to program something new. Maybe you finally figured out how to put a ringtone on your phone. It could be the smallest things, right? It doesn't have to be big things. And I don't want it to be big things at first. I want you to challenge yourself with small things, find those smaller successes and failures, and then ultimately it'll lead to bigger successes, bigger failures, but you'll be able to deal with those bigger failures and move on and find more successes. That's what I do. You guys want to know what I do? That's what I do. Challenge myself every day, work on my mental strength. Challenge, success, failure. Failures are not your enemy. You'll learn more from failures than you will from successes. All right, guys, that's it. I bumped my gums long enough. Thank you guys for watching the first episode of Meaty's Mailbox.